We're going to talk today about the latest updates that we have for the financial assistance programs under there's been three acts passed by Congress. Two of them are specifically what we're going to be talking about here today. This update is being made on the 3rd of April. As we learn more, we will do further updates. So it's important because we're going to record this and post it. If you are watching this update by video at a later time, just keep in mind this is as of 4/3/2020. There may be additional information that comes available later on, and we will post that as we get it. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about the EIDL program, which is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. There are a couple of changes to that program. We've got a little bit of clarification, and then there's a new opportunity to get an advance on that loan. So we're going to talk a little bit about the parameters of that. Then I want to dive into the Payroll Protection Program, which is the new loan program that was part of the CARES Act that just came out this past weekend. Then I'm going to share a little bit of information on how to get some assistance and additional information from us at the SBDC. And then I forgot to put on the agenda, we're going to open it up for questions from the audience. So let's just dive straight into the emergency loans, which is the EIDL program, or EIDL program, as I've heard the cool kids call it. The EIDL program is essentially a program that's designed to get your business working capital to be able to get through this period of economic downturn, especially when everybody is under the stay-at-home order. So the idea here, the goal of the program through the SBA is to get you as close to 6 months of working capital as possible. This emergency loan comes direct from the SBA. This is different than SBA loans normally. The process is different. This will come directly from the SBA, not through an SBA lender, not through a bank. So the basic parameters are that it's a loan that you can get that's up to $2 million total. It's going to have up to a 30-year payback term. The interest rate is fixed at 3.75%, and the first payment on the loan will be deferred for 12 months after the funds are dispersed to you. Now, this is a loan. It requires collateral, as a lot of SBA loans do. However, the SBA understands that these are crazy times and there's some extenuating circumstances. So they have given us guidance that they are not refusing loans to people for lack of collateral, but instead what they're doing is they will accept whatever collateral there is available. Now, the other important thing about the EIDL loans is that they are personally guaranteed loans. So you will be required to present information about the owners of the company. Any owner who has 20% or more ownership of the company will need to provide financial statements and tax forms, as well as tax forms and financial statements from the business itself to be able to process the loan. In a minute, I'll go over, there's a new application process that I'll talk about here in a second that is very much simplified and streamlined, and we'll kind of go into what that's like, and we actually have a walkthrough on our website. So a new component to this that was created under the CARES Act is that now there is the ability to get up to a $10,000 advance quickly. So because this is a loan, it has a period of time where they need to take your financial information for your business and process the application, check the tax forms, do the credit check, all of the things that they need to do for a loan. And that takes a certain amount of time. So typically the loan takes around 30 days or so to get processed and to begin to generate paperwork out to you. We're in some extenuating circumstances, so I would say that it probably will take longer than that to get the actual final loan. So what they did is they added the ability to get an advance on the loan of up to $10,000 much more quickly than that. Now, the information that's been put out says that the advance is, you can get the advance 3 days after you put in the application. After speaking with some folks at the SBA, we wanted to clarify that actually what that more realistically means is that it's 3 days once the loan reviewer is able to get your application out of the queue and then start looking at it to verify basic information and things like that. So the advice we've been given is think of it as queue time plus 3 days. Now, unfortunately, and I'm sorry to say, we don't know exactly what the queue time is going to be. It could be a few days, it could be longer. But if, for example, it takes 5 days for your application to be picked up out of the queue, then it would be that 5 days, then they would initiate the process, and it would be 3 days after that before the advance funds would be available. So please have some patience with everybody at the SBA. They are working overtime and very hard to make sure they get these things processed as quickly as possible. They have a new website and a new application that I'll show you in a second here. At the new website address is covid19relief.sba.gov. Now that website will actually take you directly to the first page of the simplified, what they call the streamlined application form. So it will drop you right into the first stages of the form, and you will start filling out information immediately. This process was put in place over the weekend, and so far so good. We actually have a video walkthrough where we actually take you through the entire process at our website, which is www.loudonsbdc.com. And basically I take you through a full field by field walkthrough of that application. Here's where it is, the FAQ on our website. I think it's the second FAQ. It might be the first FAQ now. We raised it up in the list. It's right there on the page. You can click that. It's also on our YouTube page, and it will literally walk you through every single field in the application and explain what it is you need to put in. So what you might want to do is you might want to take some time, watch this video, see what all the information is. You also have the ability to get the forms. There are multiple forms that may be required. The way the new process works is that you will provide the basic information, which will be owner information, basic business information, basic expense, profit and loss information essentially, and then you will submit that information. When the loan processor at SBA picks up your application and does a review, they will then contact you for the additional supporting documentation. Now that supporting documentation is also available on our FAQ, what you need to provide. And it is things like your financial statements, your profit and loss statements, your balance sheet, taxes for the business, as well as for the owners over 20%. And you can find the list there at loudonsbdc.com of all the information that you need. There's a link there as well to go download the PDF forms. And actually probably in the next day or so, we're gonna upload one big PDF file that has all of the forms so that you can use that to go gather the information, fill that out. Then you can get on the website and start filling out the application right away. So we wanna try to get you in as quickly as possible. I'm sure there's gonna be some questions about so specific information that you're gonna need and things like that. One of the questions that I did want to address that we've been getting is, because people have been able to put in the EIDL loan for a week or so, how are people who already put in their application able to get the advance or request the advance? So basically what you need to do is, if you've already put in an application for an EIDL loan, go ahead and go to this simplified application, put in the basic information, and then select in the form, there's a checkbox that says, I would like to get the advance. and it asks you for your bank information. That is the bank name, routing number, and account number where you would like those funds transferred, based on what they determine the appropriate advance will be for you. So go ahead and put that in and then submit it. My understanding is that the SBA will match that up on the back end by the processor with your application that you've already put in. So you can request the advance if you have already put in an application for a loan. You just need to go and put in the streamlined application form. The good news is it doesn't require a ridiculous amount of information. It's a little extra work, but it will put you in line and put you in the queue and notify them that you want that advance. Once you've done that, you will have an opportunity to be able to gather some additional information. You're going to want to make sure that you're able to show a couple of different things. They're going to want to see information about your revenues from basically last year, so 2019 revenues versus revenues year to date for 2020. They're going to want to see what tax filings you made, the latest tax filings you made. So if you had already submitted your 2019 tax forms, then they'll want those. If not, they'll want 2019 tax forms. When the processor contacts you, you will have an opportunity to provide additional documentation. So if you want to run a cash flow statement or an expenses statement or showing monthly sales figures for the period since January, then you'll be able to do that, and you'll be able to provide that to the application, whoever is processing and reviewing the application. So that being said, we should probably have some more questions about that. But now we're going to go ahead and move on to the next type of loan, which is, which is the PPP, or the payroll protection loans. So these are the Payroll Protection Program. This was just created last weekend under the CARES Act. This is also a loan. It's a 100% guaranteed loan from the SBA, but this loan actually flows through SBA lenders. So those are 7A SBA lenders, which are banks, usually banks. So the parameters of this loan are a little bit different, and the purpose of this loan is to be able to cover 8 weeks of payroll so that you can keep employees employed. That's the entire purpose of the bill, is to be able to keep people employed during this time when we're all sequestered and when we're under the stay-at-home. The parameters of this are a little bit different, and some of the information has been clarified in the last couple of days. This is the most current info we have right now. Each individual loan can be up to $10 million. Each company can only get one PPP loan. So you can't apply for one, use the money, and then go apply for another one. So you want to apply for as much as you can get. So make sure you have your information together well, and the SBDC can help you kind of think through how to do that. We're being told now that it's a 2-year payback term. The bill says up to 10 years, but the SBA determination and the guidance that we have as of last night is that it's going to be a 2-year payback term, and the percentage is 1%. So it's a 1% loan for 2 years. The payments are going to be deferred for 6 months. However, it will accrue interest as soon as the money is dispersed. So when the money is dispersed for the loan, you will have 6 months to start paying, but interest will start accruing immediately. Now, the way that they're going to calculate the loans is that you're going to look at your total payroll expenses for the last 12-month period. Basically, they're going to look at the 2019 payroll period. And I'll come back to that because there's some questions about, well, what if I wasn't in business then? So if you take the last 12 months of payroll preceding February 15th, 2020, and then you add all those months up, and then you divide it by 12, and that gives you your average monthly payroll. So that average monthly payroll then gets multiplied by 2.5. So it's 250% of your average monthly payroll. And then that is the amount of the loan. So the idea here is that that should be enough money to cover 8 weeks or 2 months worth of payroll. Now, there's a couple of things that you can use this loan for that aside from just paying payroll. So you can use it for payroll, direct payroll, and that includes wages, salaries, tips, commissions, that sort of thing. You can also use it to pay rent. You can use it to pay interest on a mortgage. So if you own the property, it will help cover the interest, not the principal, but the interest. And you can also use it to pay utilities. So essentially it's whatever you need to be able to keep those workers on payroll and pay them for 8 weeks. Now, I'm still figuring out exactly when the 8 weeks triggers, but right now it looks like the 8 weeks that are going to be covered by this loan are the 8 weeks after you are approved and you get the loan initiation period. Now, one of the things that you need to keep in mind is that there's a forgiveness aspect to this loan. So in a sense, it's like the loan converts into a grant, and it can be up to 100% of the value of the loan. And the way that is calculated is that they will look at the actual payroll costs of that 8-week period after you get the loan. And then if all of those costs equal the amount of the loan you borrowed, then the entire loan will be forgiven. If not, then whatever portion of your payroll that was spent during that 8-week period, that will be forgiven. The only thing to watch out for with that is that 75% of that amount must be for actual payroll, which means wages, salaries, commissions, tips, that sort of thing. The rent and the utilities and that stuff has to be no more than 25% of that amount to be able to have it forgiven. Now, again, these are going to flow through the SBA lenders. So the application process for this will be, you will contact an SBA lender. And what I would recommend is that you check with your financial institution who you work with and ask them if they are participating in this loan. Many are, and we're starting to get lists of the 7A lenders who are participating, and we will be posting that information or a link to that information on our FAQ site at loudonsbdc.com in the next day or so. So those resources are coming online. So you will go to the bank and they will help you walk through the actual application process. There's a lot of forms that are flying around on the internet, including the actual application form. That's fine. We will guide you as best we can to make sure that you're putting the appropriate information on the application form. However, you're going to need to supply additional documentation to the bank for them to be able to determine your eligibility and the actual amount, initially the amount of the loan, and then later the amount of the forgiveness of the loan. So the banks are going to be the people who are going to be able to answer all of those very, very specific questions. So we're going to be able to help you with as much as we can, but there may be some things that the banks are going to need to talk with you. So it's extremely important that you get with your financial institution and find out how they are going to handle this. One of the things that started happening today, because this loan was supposed to open up for applications starting today for small businesses, and then next week for independent contractors. And I'll come back to that in a second. So some banks are accepting applications today. Some banks are still getting their processes up to speed and ready to be able to actually accept applications. So I know that there are some banks that have started to accept applications today, and I've heard a couple of our local regional banks are starting on Monday, and then the banks will individually come online as quickly as they possibly can. So check with yours and find out what their particular guidance is on that. As far as who can apply immediately, that is going to be small businesses and nonprofits, specifically 501c3s. And then independent contractors are going to be handled separately for this program. Now, here's a couple of pieces of what that means. First off, when you are calculating your payroll expenses, you will not include money that you are paying to independent contractors. Those are people that you file 1099s for. So they will not be calculated in your average payroll because they are going to be handled separately under this program. They'll be able to file for their own loan independently. So you will, as a business, only be factoring in your employees' payroll expenses. One of the other things that you'll need to factor in there is that it's only payroll, salary, wages, up to $100,000. So if you have an employee who makes over $100,000, the amount over the $100,000 is not going to be eligible for use in this program. So it will not be calculated in your amount of the total amount of the loan, and it will not be calculated in the forgiveness of that portion of the loan later. So when you're calculating, that's an important thing to know. Take out the independent contractors. Everybody gets capped at $100,000 for calculation purposes. Now, independent contractors will be able to file, starting next week, they will be able to file their own PPP loan applications to get a loan to pay 8 weeks of, and basically I assume the calculation will be the same. What have you been bringing in as an independent contractor over the last year, divided by 12, multiplied by 2.5, that's the amount that you'll be able to borrow. And everything I understand right now is that 8 weeks of actual costs will be able to be forgiven as well. So we'll get a little bit more specific guidance on things like that over the next several days, I'm hoping. So when we do an update next week, we'll hopefully have a little bit more info. But right now, that's how we understand that's going to happen. And again, because the banks and the SBA and everybody's coming up to speed on this as quickly as possible, because we are all committed to helping you. We want you to get the assistance that you need. We all understand how dire this situation is, and that everybody is extremely anxious and extremely stressed out about this. It's totally appropriate to feel that way. There is nothing abnormal about being worried right now, okay? Please try to have some patience with the folks who are doing this. We've had great conversations with all of the clients that we're working with. We really appreciate your patience as we work through this and try to help everybody. We're going to be getting more specific direction and more specific information and guidance as the days go on, and as we start getting specific questions and then get answers to specific questions, we'll be able to answer questions a little bit faster. So please hang with us, continue to stay with us to get updates, because we will have updates and we will continue working with people one-on-one. Now, those are the major components of the program. One of the questions that I'm getting is, can you do both an EIDL loan and a PPP loan? And my understanding is, yes, you can. Although it seems in the document I was reading overnight that if there's money from the EIDL loan, that some of that may get incorporated into the PPP loan. Again, we'll have some more guidance on that hopefully soon about how that gets calculated. But that amount will not include the up to the $10,000 advance. The nice thing about that advance is that it basically doesn't have to be paid back. So if you qualify for, say, a $5,000 advance and they give you the $5,000 advance, you are not responsible for paying that back. The other thing about that advance is that you can ask for and potentially get an advance, even if you ultimately are turned down for the disaster loan itself. So Our advice, again, apply for the loan. If appropriate, ask for the advance, and then the SBA processor will work with you directly on that. And then the bank will be able to work with you on if you need to calculate into that any of the what's left over from the EIDL loan or not. They'll have specific guidance on how to do that. All right, so now I want to talk a little bit about how you get some help thinking through all this stuff. So the SBDC is open for business. We're here to help you. We have virtualized our coaching and admin staff. We are doing meetings through virtual Zoom meetings right now like this, and you can request an appointment. We will be doing additional webinars, and hopefully we'll also be doing some office hours type Q&A sessions. I'm hoping to start that next week once we get some information. So watch for registration links to additional update webinars. They will be at the top of our page at loudonsbdc.com. This webinar was actually put there, so with registration and information there. So you'll be able to see that, so watch that every now and then. The advantage to that is that you will also be able to keep track of our FAQ. We've created an FAQ section on that same page that has lots of different information about assistance programs, about resources that you can get links to and download. There are some, there's a state grant for right now to help offset costs of keeping your workforce working. There's some information about bridge loans. In a future webinar, we will actually also talk a little bit about there's a payroll tax credit that came out in the CARES Act, and there is also some loan forgiveness for people who have existing SBA loans. So we can bring up some information about that as well. So follow our FAQ page for all of those types of things. You also, again, don't forget, you can walk through the EIDL walkthrough for the application if you're curious about that process. If you would like to get a one-on-one appointment with an SBDC coach, you can do that by going to that same FAQ page and scrolling to the bottom, and there is a request an appointment button. Click that. If you are previously were signed up as an SBDC client, you'll be asked to log into your account and just refresh your data and make sure it's fine. If you're a brand new, if you've never been an SBDC client before, click that button. It will ask you for some information. It will give you a little bit of information telling you about the confidentiality and all that stuff. These appointments are no cost to you. They're covered by our grant funds. So we have people who are standing by. Once you submit that information, you'll get an immediate confirmation that you're registered in the system. And then within 24 hours, you will get an automatic email that gives you a link to be able to click to go and book a session on a day and time that is available with our coaches and that also works for you. So we've turned that into a self-service process so that you can see you as quickly as possible without having to go back and forth with 1,500 emails or phone calls to try to coordinate time with you and a coach. Once the coach gets assigned through that process, you'll get a confirmation email, and then the coach will reach out to you with the call connection information for the Zoom call. So register for the service, pick a day and time when you get that link. The coach will reach out and make sure that you have the call connection information. And then on that call connection, there also will be the ability to cancel or to, on the booking that you get, the booking confirmation, there's also, like I told you, there's a lot of information to keep track of. That you could either cancel or reschedule an appointment. So if something comes up and you need to move your appointment, you can do that right from the confirmation email. So please don't delete the confirmation email. You will also get a reminder email about a day or so before you're supposed to do your appointment. You can also cancel or you can reschedule the appointment from there as well. So we're here to help you and we're happy to do so. And here's some information. Whoops. Here's some information. You feel free to email me directly if you need to, and I will get you routed to someone who can help you, or feel free to email our main office at MEC20175 or give us a call at 703-466-0466. Alex is standing by and he will make sure we get your information and get you into the process.